Hello and welcome to the Children's Media Conference webinar, Get In, Get On. Thanks for joining us. I'm your host, Beck Hill. I'm a children's TV writer and presenter and author of the Horror Heights series of kids' books. I've won a few awards, no big deal. But enough about me. This webinar is about you and more specifically, ways you can get in and get on in this industry. We have some fantastic experts covering all forms of children's media, including TV, animation, digital media, publishing, marketing, creative, business, and production. You'll hear from some recruiting and training experts and talent managers about what opportunities are available for you, as well as practical advice such as building a CV, creating a show reel, shaping your LinkedIn profile, or attending an interview. We also have two professionals who will be sharing their experience of entering the industry and building their careers, which I have no doubt will inspire many. Speaking of inspiration and opportunities, I should mention the Children's Media Conference, who are behind this Get In, Get On webinar. The Children's Media Conference, or CMC, is a big industry get-together that happens every year in Sheffield. This year, it's the 21st CMC, which takes place from the 9th to the 11th of July. And if you're serious about getting into kids' media business, it's a great place to be. I actually attended for the first time last year and got so much out of it that I insisted on being involved this year. So I highly recommend registering. We're posting the link to do that in the chat. There's also a catch-up pass available to view all the recorded sessions and keynotes when they're published after the conference, which is also a fantastic, accessible way to get to know kids' media in every aspect. Now, if you're like me, you were drawn to children's media because you have a short attention span. So with that in mind, if you have any questions for our experts, pop them into the chat section and we'll do our best to answer them all in an email after the webinar. I know, genius, right? In my opinion, everything should be an email. Q&As, meetings, my sister's hen do. Obviously, that last one's a joke. I don't have a sister. And I have no idea whose hen do I'm organising. So before we introduce our kids media experts, it's important we clarify what kids media is, because it covers so much more than just television. Children's media is a vast spectrum of content, which also includes books, film, animation, games, documentary, and journalism. Media is a part of children's everyday lives and has the ability to encourage learning and shape their emotional and cognitive development, which is why it's so important. Children's media is an exciting and much-needed industry, and our reach within it is now global. In recent decades, we have seen it expand across platforms, and it requires a wide variety of roles suited to a diverse range of talent, from creative roles such as animators, directors, presenters, and writers, to production roles who manage and coordinate projects and teams. And this still doesn't cover everything that the kids media industry has to offer. So check out the brilliant Get In, Get On videos via CMC's YouTube channel. There you'll find a whole range of videos about topics such as how kids media works, gaming and content creation, marketing you, factual journalism, animation, live action TV, music and radio, and writing and publishing. There are many companies who specialise in kids' content in the UK, such as Blue Zoo, Warner Brothers Discovery, and Paramount. And luckily for you, we have some experts from those very companies here today. So whether you're looking to move into a creative or production role, or both, stick around because they're going to talk to you about how you can make the most of your individuality and prepare for the workplace. So let's begin. First up, we have Katie Slack, who is a talent acquisition manager from Blue Zoo, one of the UK's largest animation studios. Katie is going to chat us through the recruitment process and what a recruiter looks for in your application. Hi, Katie, over to you.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Hey.
Hi. Hi. Hello, everyone. As Beck mentioned, my name's Katie. I'm a talent acquisition manager here at Blue Zoo. I'm going to speak a little bit about how to and what it's like to apply to an animation studio, so those very first processes. I am speaking from the perspective of applying to Blue Zoo, so things may be slightly different elsewhere, but hopefully it'll still be pretty useful for everyone listening. So this is generally what our recruitment process looks like in a nutshell. We hire mainly through our own careers site, and very rarely do we use third-party sites. So off the back of that, my biggest recommendation is to keep an eye on companies' socials and LinkedIn's. Aside from our careers site, LinkedIn is probably our other main source of finding talent. So I think for us, your work is what's most important. That's sort of getting you noticed, be it on LinkedIn, be it through an application. We say, keep your CV neat, clean, and to the point. Same goes for your cover letter. Really just let your work shine. But then also do keep your LinkedIn up to date, just in case we do need to check it for something. We also say to keep the use of AI to a minimum. I know this is a big topic at the moment, but we believe that it should be a support when it comes to things like CVs and cover letters. And recruiters can generally tell now when it's become a bit of a crux. We want to see who you are above anything else. And in the same vein, us as a studio or a talent team, we don't use AI to look through applications. Everyone is seen by a member of our team. So there's no like secret keywords or anything that you need to put into your CV or anything like that from our perspective, at least. And I think the other biggest thing to remember during a recruitment process, be it for Bluezoo, be it for any other company that you're applying for, is to know the company. I can't stress this enough. You have to know the shows that they've done and a bit about its history. So if you don't already know, and we do talk about it quite a lot, Bluezoo is a B Corp, and it's something that feeds into everything that we do here at Bluezoo. Just as a bit of context, we're one of around, I think it's 2,000 companies in the UK now that hold B Corp status, but we were the first major animation studio in the UK to do so. So for us, that kind of means using animation as a force for good. So being B Corp means that we hold ourselves to very progressive societal and environmental values and standards. I won't go too much into it right now, as I could talk about it for a really long time, but how does this feed into our application process? You're probably wondering. I think for us, it means that we try to make every step as human as possible. And as a candidate, I think I'd just say to consider this too in your approach. If we're here to make the experience as good as it can be for you, what does working for a studio like ours mean to you, and what's important to you? What do you value? You're probably all wondering, what is it that we look for in our reels or our portfolios? As I mentioned before, the most important thing for us is your work and or your skill set based on what you're applying for. I'm going to talk about this kind of in the most general terms possible, as obviously there are so many roles in the pipeline and everybody is different. But in general, you need to know the basics. You need to show that you understand the fundamentals that you've taken, like, for example, that you've taken an exercise that you've learned at university on a course, whatever it might be, but you've then gone a little step further and illustrated it in a more unique and interesting way. This doesn't need to be super polished at all, just something that illustrates your skill set. For example, on the screen there, you can kind of see the three things that we look for in animation show reels. So that's an acting shot, a pantomime shot, and an action shot. That will be different for every studio that you apply for, but through doing your research, you will be able to kind of understand what those things are that they're looking for. Then I think the other thing that's huge is the relevancy. So what type of work do the studio do? What softwares do they use? Make sure you illustrate that. Really do your research. This is a big point that I think a lot of grads do miss. So for example, if you look at Bluezoo, have we ever really done anything, super hyper realistic, or is it all super stylized and colorful? And then in a similar vein, in your portfolios, what do we look for there? This is kind of more veering to the design storyboard side of working at an animation studio. But generally, we always say mix up your styles. I think for a lot of studios, speaking mainly from Bluezoo, obviously, most applicants don't know what they're applying for when they apply, mainly because things are kept under NDA, obviously. So we need to see that you have range and are adaptable. We love to see things like a line drawing or a thumbnail just as much as a finished piece. So again, let your creativity and your skill set show in all of those different ways. And again, like I mentioned before, I think we just want to see some uniqueness, see you in your work. We want to see what makes you interesting as a candidate. And then I think on top of both of those things, I think one of the most important things that you can do as a new grad is if you are able to do so, is to attend things like this, things like industry events, where you can get feedback from people at the places you want to work. And that's more valuable, I think, than anything else. If you can't do things like that, I'd recommend looking into organizations like Screen Skills and Access VFX for things like feedback opportunities, short courses, so you can keep learning and developing, or for things like mentorship opportunities. So applying to work at Bluezoo, amongst all those things, I think we try and break it down into these 4 titles. So for ours, less is more. So when it comes to reel or portfolio, keep it simple. At this very early stage, we like to see what we're hiring for. If you're an animator, we want to see animation. If you're a storyboarder, we want to see storyboards. If you work across multiple disciplines, that's great, that's wonderful. However, at this stage, we'd like you to stay focused on what you're applying for. So whether that's having separate show reels for those separate things, you have different portfolios, or maybe you have a website that's got multiple pages that you can separate out easily. Keep it short. A reel doesn't need to be any longer than a minute. For entry-level roles, 30 seconds is totally fine if you're showing your best work. It doesn't always need to be shiny or polished, only that your work is showing skills that are needed for the job you're applying for. In the same vein, put your best foot forward. I think one of our biggest tips, and we say this everything we ever go to, is you should showcase your best pieces first and last on your reel or in a portfolio for a really strong first and then a lasting impression. Show us work that you're proud of. You don't always need to include things, really simple things like uni exercises that don't show your style and personality. Put those exercises into practice, like I said before, but show us what you've learned from it and show us who you are. Honesty is always the best policy. For example, when you're applying to our internships, the one requirement we have is that you've had no professional work experience. Therefore, making films you've made at uni or in your personal time look like professional films on your CV or in your LinkedIn will discount you, because we, as recruiters, we don't always have time to go digging deeper. So be honest about your experience, as sometimes less experience can actually benefit you. If you're honest from the start, we know best how to support and develop you as a candidate. And then the finer details, I think these are the really basic things. Just make sure everything's up to date. The amount of times that we've clicked on a showreel link that doesn't work, or things are outdated on your CV. Make sure your notice period is up to date if you have one, that your right to work is up to date. Anything like that will stop you or hinder your progress in an application, they just need to be covered from the very beginning. If we can't access those kind of things, we probably won't go looking for it. We do get a lot of applications, as I'm sure most studios do, particularly right now. So just make sure they're all up to date. We have certain roles, for example, that are based on location, so that you need to be based outside of London, for example. So if you've studied in London and left that as your location, that will discount you. So it's just making sure everything is as up to date as possible. The finer details are often as important as your creative work, so make sure you just double check everything. Those, I think we'll go over those again, but yes, that's what I would kind of say generally for applying to work at somewhere like Bluezoo, is what to expect. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Katie. That's really, really useful. I love it. But what do you do once you've used all that great advice to score an interview? Senior Early Talent Manager at Warner Brothers Discovery, Annie Oxlade, is here to tell you.
Hi Beck. Thank you for having me.
Hi, Annie.
Yeah, as Beck said, I am the Senior Early Talent Advisor at Warner Brothers Discovery, so I specialise in looking after our early careers programmes, which includes all internships and apprenticeships. And I'm going to go over the interview process and how you can best prepare once you do get an interview at one of the fantastic studios offering a role for you. So just to start, we're actually going to go over what the different programs are that you could apply to, and just break down some different things about what you might not know, the differences between an internship and apprenticeship and everything like that. So internships, if you're looking to apply for those, they're generally short term, so it might be a summer internship or over a couple of months. And there's also something called a placement, which you may have heard of, or alternatively a year in industry, which is usually a 1-year opportunity that is completed between your second and final year at university. These are usually paid opportunities, and they're a really good way to gain experience in the working world before you graduate. An apprenticeship is actually an alternative to university. So if you don't think university is right for you, this is a really great way to get into the industry without getting any debt from university. So how it works is that you will work for a company while also studying towards a relevant qualification. So you will usually work for the company 80% of the time, so that might be 4 days a week, and then study 20% of the time as well. These are also paid opportunities, and they're a good option, as I said, if you want to earn while you learn. Then we have graduate programs. So these are completed after you graduate university, and they can vary in length, usually from 1 to 3 years. They are a good opportunity if you're looking to get an introduction into the working world and you haven't managed to do this through an internship during your degree. They're also paid, and you can also look out for opportunities in this realm that are rotational, so you can learn about lots of different areas of the business within your graduate program. And finally, there's also work experience and work shadowing. So these are usually really short opportunities, either 1 to 2 weeks, and they're an opportunity for you to learn more about how a business operates. You usually shadow an employee and learn more about their day-to-day role and what they do. These are usually unpaid, but they're good to do during when you're at school or college, and to get an idea of the different career options available to you. And then moving on to interviews. So how to best prepare for an interview. I know Katie spoke about this a lot as well, but the best thing you can do to prepare for an interview is do your research. The more research you do, the more relaxed you're going to feel, and the more well prepared you're going to be as well. So some good areas to get you started in terms of what to research. The first thing is just around the company in general. So have a look on Google about the company, read some articles about sort of what's going on at the moment and any current news that might affect them. Look at upcoming events and announcements. So for example, at Warner Brothers Discovery, we have a lot of films and TV shows coming out. So look at what's coming up, and those sorts of things are projects that you could be working on if you were to be successful. Looking at the job description is also really important. So make sure to reread the job description for the role that you have applied to, and prepare to answer questions that are related to this. This is probably the biggest thing you can do, because where you're applying to probably a lot of different roles at once, it's really crucial that you know which role you are currently about to be interviewed for, and that will help you to prepare. Also looking at the company website is really good. So looking at whether they have a company ethos, any diversity, equity and inclusion policies, any intern program information that could help you in your application as well. And finally, LinkedIn is also really good. So if you're given information around who is going to be interviewing you, you can look up those people on LinkedIn, or you can just look at the company on LinkedIn for recent updates as well. And then looking more into the types of questions that you're going to be asked in an interview, you can also do some research around this. So Glassdoor is a really good website to look at. You can usually check on the website and see previous questions that have been asked in interviews by that company, and even for that specific role. And then you can prepare to be able to answer those in the interview. So that would probably be the #1 place I would suggest to look. Also thinking about how to structure your answers, looking at the STAR method is a really crucial thing to do ahead of your interview. So that stands for situation, task, action, and result. In terms of structuring your interview answers, that is how best to structure any answers. And I'll go on to that a bit more in the next slide. And practicing interviews as well with family members, friends, teachers, or people at your school or college, anyone. The more you practice, the more comfortable you are going to feel in an interview situation. And finally, how to prepare for specific interview questions. So I've listed some questions that most companies do ask, and how you can sort of think about answering them as well. So the first thing is questions just about you and your CV. So make sure you know what you have put on your CV. As it was said before, honesty is the best policy. Don't put something on there that isn't true. And be prepared to elaborate on any experience or skills that you've listed. So if you don't have, really great Adobe skills, don't put them on there, because you may be questioned on it. So just be prepared to elaborate on anything that is written on your CV. There's also questions such as tell us about a time when. So these are competency-based questions. And this is where I was saying you would want to use the STAR method. So they're asking you to tell them about a time when you have used communication skills or teamwork skills. So the way to prepare to this is to think of different examples of when you have used different crucial skills that are listed on the job description, and then you're going to sort of tell a story using the STAR method in order to answer them. One thing I would say is try to think of a variety of examples. So school and college is great, but also looking at work experience, any part-time work you've done, any projects you've worked on, just to give yourself a bit of variety to select from in the interview as well. Another type of question is asking how you would approach a certain situation. So think about the situation they've given you and the skills that they listed on the job description as being crucial for the role. A lot of the time, what they're looking for you to do is to prioritize communication. So if they're saying that in your role, there's been a problem and someone has come up to you, what do you do? The first thing you can always say if you're not sure is you would ask your manager for help, because they're really looking for someone who is going to be able to ask for help when it's needed as well. So if all else fails, that is the best route to go down. And just use your best judgment as well. They're more looking to see your process for tackling situations as opposed to getting the right answer. So if you're not sure, just talk them through your process and how you're thinking through the problem. And finally, the question that is asked at the end of every interview is, do you have any questions for us? This can be a really crucial part of the interview. So make sure that you come prepared with a lot of different questions, because they may answer some throughout the interview as well. But some examples of what you can ask. Can you tell me about some of the projects I might get to work on in this role? Asking the managers or the team what their favourite part of the role is, or their favourite project that they've worked on too. And you can also say you read about something in the job description and you wanted to learn a little bit more about them. So asking them to tell you a bit more about that, just to show that you've done the research as well. But yeah, I think that's a whistle-stop tour to preparing for interviews.
Thank you so much, Annie. That's really, really useful yet again. Next up, we have Wade Chowdhury, People Development Senior Manager at Paramount, who's going to chat through how to build your personal brand. Over to you, Wade.
Thank you so much, Beck, and thank you to the CMC for inviting me on this panel. So I've only got 5 minutes, so I'll be showing you over this time how you can build your own personal brand through focusing on 3 key areas: selling, marketing, and exposure, making you the most desirable person in this industry. So, starting with your elevator pitch, which is a short statement about you, your skills, and what you offer to make you stand out from everyone else. Next slide. To build your pitch, you need to have an idea of who you're talking to, so do your research, something that the previous 2 speakers, Katie and Annie, have both spoken about. Research is so key to success. So, for example, you need to be asking yourself, are you talking to a decision maker, or is it the executive assistant? What are their needs? What are they looking for? So do your research, and if you're attending a networking event, find out in advance who's attending. So you can write down a list of who you want to speak to, and you can do that simply by talking to the organisers of that networking event or conference. In your pitch, you want to nail what you're offering. So think about the problem you're trying to solve or the idea you want to get across. What you will need to say to the person. Think about what you'll need to say to them, to the person you're talking to, move them from "we don't really need you" to "we must have you," or what you've got to offer. Next slide, please. And think about your unique selling points. What separates you from others? What makes you special, unique? What's your unique selling point? Why should they choose you? And get to your motivations, the why aspect. What's your passion? And think about how all of this links into your values. Many people don't discuss their values or even know what their values are. But if you're able to articulate them and know what they are, it will help you with your preparation for your elevator pitch. Okay, so you've nailed your pitch. Let's get on to marketing yourself. And LinkedIn, which again has been mentioned several times already, is a great way to promote yourself. And it's a platform used by quite literally millions of people worldwide. And you need to be on it if you're not already. LinkedIn is your unique opportunity to market yourself in a carefully curated way. The personal brand you create is influenced by many things. So think about your existing online presence. What are you already posting out there in cyber world? And how does the content you post reflect who you are and where you want to be? Does it reflect your career aspirations or where you want to look for in the future? LinkedIn also allows you to showcase and highlight your unique skills and experiences. So be sure to post key projects, stuff that you've worked on, and any key achievements in your posts within LinkedIn. So 6 quick things to create in your profile, to make sure you have in your profile. A headshot, make sure it's clear and looks professional. So no photos of you in the pub or on the beach or in your bikini. Create a compelling short headline, which should summarize your experience and your goals. And create a summary of your career journey to date. Keep it engaging and think about how your past experiences have shaped who you are today. So creating a skills section is really useful as well, where you identify your core strengths, your key talents, and your areas of expertise. And use keywords. This is important within LinkedIn because recruiters do use LinkedIn and use it via use a search for people using those keywords. So ensure your profile is full of the words you think people will be searching for. So for example, I work in people development. So my LinkedIn profile is full of some of the following keywords: transformation, change management, people development, training delivery, stakeholder management. And these are the words that recruiters that work in my sector will search for to find people. And also create that online presence. And you can do that in multiple ways. LinkedIn is something that you need to be engaged with on a regular basis to build visibility amongst those millions of people online and to raise your profile. So share content or updates relating to your career goals, whether it be a show reel or an article or something that you participated in, but stay away from sensitive or political subjects because it will stay online forever and you don't know who will be looking at it later on down the line. Finally, getting to exposure, which is about getting yourself out there in the broader, wide world, looking for those opportunities to get yourself known by the decision makers out there through networking events. Next slide, please. So networking can be nerve-wracking, but it really is all about having the right mindset to get through. So some tips here: know your elevator pitch inside out. Practice it with your friends, your family, your colleagues, until it's memorized and pitch perfect. And be focused and intentional about who you want to connect with. Come to an event with a list of people that you want to speak with. Be brave and resilient. You won't be on your own. People attend conferences or other events for the very purpose of networking and building those connections. And read the situation. You may have your elevator pitch memorized, but it doesn't mean you need to read it. A great way to build relationships is finding out how you can help the person you're talking to rather than just simply finding out what they can do for you. Thank you very much. Back to you, Beck.
Thank you so much, Wade. It was very hard for me to not take that personally, considering how much I need to update my LinkedIn profile. So just before you go, we wanted to get one good top tip from everyone here. So starting with you again, Katie, did you have one top tip that you would give our viewers?
Yes, I think to pick out of all of my top tips, I think less is more. Just keep it simple. Show your best work. Be honest about everything. Just keep it simple. Less.
It's good advice. Excellent advice. Annie, what would you say?
Yeah, I would say, to add on to everything I already said, if you're not successful, make sure that you ask for feedback at the end of the interview so that you can improve for the next time.
That's a brilliant tip. And Wade?
Well, 2 quick ones. Firstly, be authentic. Be your real self. Don't pretend to be someone else. People will see through it. And you don't want to work anywhere where people don't want you, so or want the real you. So be authentic and really know your values. Take a deep dive into what you're really passionate about, what you believe in, and that will help you form your pitch with your interviews and everything else that you do.
I love that. Thank you so much, Wade and and Katie. I just wanted to say again, those are great tips. That you all had much more to say, but we're trying to keep this tight. So tips and slides will be going out in a pack afterwards. I'll remind everyone at the end of this, but you will be sent a pack with slides, and I'm sure we can include any tips and the answers to your the answers to your questions. However, so if you've got any questions, pop them in the chat, and we'll do our best to answer them in an email after the session. Now, moving on, we have Kieran Argo, Animation and Production Liaison from Screen Skills. Now, Screen Skills is the industry-led skills body for the screen industries. It's film, television, including children's, unscripted and high-end, VFX, that's visual effects, animation and games, etc. So because Screen Skills works closely with recruiters, professionals, and companies in the industry, they offer brilliant, up-to-date advice and training for those working in the industry. But here is Kieran to tell you more.
Thanks, Beck. Well, that was fantastic stuff from Katie, Annie, and Wade. Really useful stuff. So yes, as Beck said, thank you to the CMC for having me. I work for Screen Skills. I look after the animation side of things. So Screen Skills, as Beck touched on, they're industry-led skills and training organisation. And the two key words there are industry-led. We listen to the industry. In my case, it's the animation industry, and we try and identify and address shortages. So there are four main funds. There's the animation fund, the children's fund, film, and the high-end TV fund. As I said, so Screen Skills is all about identifying and addressing skills gaps in the industry. So we understand where the shortages are from reports from the likes of the BFI. Each of the areas with the funds have got their own skills councils, and we listen to them. They give us lots of valuable feedback. And then once we identify where the shortages are, we commission training providers to deliver some training, and then we evaluate the effectiveness and the worthwhile efforts that everybody does at the end of that. So the most important thing, I think, for you is I strongly encourage you to have a look at the Screen Skills website. It's an amazing resource. It really is. There's so much fantastic stuff there. It's quite a big website, so don't let that put you off. Just take your time and navigate your way around the best you can. You'll get used to the layout the more you visit it. But there really is a wealth of advice and opportunities, and training opportunities, and learning opportunities as well. So, for example, there are e-learning modules. These are relatively short courses that you can do in your own time, such as tackling harassment and bullying at work, introduction to mental health awareness at work. These are all really useful things to know across the board. It doesn't matter whether you're into animation, whether you're into live action or children's, whatever. These are all sort of across the board basic skills that most people will benefit from in any line of work. So I think for entry level, the last time I looked, there's probably about 20 relevant e-learning modules, and they're all free. You don't pay a penny, and you can do them all, and you get your own little certificate at the end of them as well, which are widely recognized throughout the industry. One of the great entry e-learning modules is getting into the screen industries. This is a suite of 5 short modules. And they give you a really good sound basis to work upon. So I strongly advise you to have a look at that one if you do want to dive into some of the e-learning modules. We also offer you, there's a range of career maps. So there's VFX, animation, unscripted TV, film and TV drama. And in my case, next slide, please, we have an animation career map. And this goes through all the various jobs within the animation world that you can that might interest you. And on the flip side of the career map, you can download it from the website as a PDF. It's a 2-sheet PDF. On the second sheet, there's a lot more text associated with each of the job roles that you see on the first page. So we also have a jobs board. Lots of companies, they put up any new job opportunities. So if you're seriously looking for a job, have a look at the Screen Skills jobs board. There's jobs posted there from entry level right through to senior and expert level. So bear that in mind if you're looking for jobs. Also, next step up, we use the money that we get in from the industry to provide short courses. And for as far as I'm concerned, for the animation side of things, we've got a whole load of new co-funded courses, and these are the courses that are in pink on this list. But there's some really useful courses that you can book into, and these are timed and delivered by people out there that they're not e-learning modules. Really useful stuff. I did a couple myself just a couple of weeks ago. Really, really useful. It changed the way I think about things. It made me understand things that I perhaps didn't understand as best as I could. And it was a wonderful learning opportunity and experience. So again, these are all free as well. So have a look at those. So just back to the funds. So how Screen Skills operates is we ask the industry, so in my case it's the animation production companies, the broadcasters and the commissioners, to pay in a little bit of money from their production budgets. It's 0.5 of 1%. And then we use that money to deliver all of this training and all of these e-learning modules and professional development courses. And next slide, please. We also do, one of the flagship things is Animation Trainee Finder, whereby we recruit, in this case, our latest round of trainees consists of 30 people who are very keen and extremely talented, willing to get into the industry. And so any company that pays into the fund, they get to have a first look at their CVs and can hopefully bring them on, and they can reclaim some of their money to help pay for paid trainee positions in an actual production in the real world. So this is a really successful, very popular course, and we've put through about 50 people through this over the last 2 to 3 years. So it's really worth bearing in mind. We've just opened the next Trainee Finder course, so that's going to run for the next 2 years. So it won't be until 25 that the next round of applications will be considered. So on top of all of that, we have more targeted CPD, that's continuing professional development courses. So when I started at Screen Skills a year and a half ago, we were hearing a lot of noise about there not being enough Toon Boom animators. Toon Boom, wonderful animation software if you don't know it. So we found a training provider and we commissioned them to deliver 3 courses at entry, junior and senior levels of training for Toon Boom. Currently, in partnership with Indie Lab, there are 4 creative animation courses looking at production, direction, production management, and leadership. And then we're just finished with Film Hub Southwest, the BFI Film Hub Southwest. We've done a 1-day producers lab with regional producers down in the Southwest. And we're just about to roll out the next round of CPD courses for this year. So keep an eye out on that. Yeah, so there you go. That's it for me. Sorry, it's all a bit rushed, but thanks for your time and good luck. And if you want to get in contact with me, my email's on the screen. So thanks again, and over to you, Beck. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Kieran. Before you run off, do you have a top tip for our viewers?
Top tip, yes, of course. Keep an open mind. Always be open to new ways of doing things. Technologies change, and the way that we work together as a group because it's such a collaborative effort in any of the screen industries. You have to be open, you have to be supremely friendly. The animation world is one of the friendliest subsectors of the screen industries, and everybody I know in there is super friendly. So it's really worth being open-minded and friendly. And as Wade mentioned, network as much as you can on social media, LinkedIn, all the social media platforms, and in person if you can. So if you can get to the CMC in July, hopefully I'll get to see you there, and you can come up and do your elevator pitch and have a chat with us then. So good luck.
I love that. Thank you so much, Kieran. That's brilliant free training for us. Thank you very much. Now, we've heard from some experts about training and applying for roles in the industry. So now we turn to some professionals who will share their personal experience entering the industry and their career paths so far. Sophia Guerrieri and Jide Johnson began their careers within the past 10 years and have both succeeded in building careers within the industry, but in very different ways. Sophia now works at Sky and has progressed through the corporate internship route, whereas Jide has worked independently at his studio, Anibox. Between the two of them is a wealth of knowledge on how to navigate the beginning of your career and how to sustain it in two very different fields. They'll be telling us a bit about their journey from school to the working world, where they gained experience and what kind of challenges they've faced. So first, let's hear from Sophia.
Hi, Bex. Hi, lovely to be here. Yes, I did start my career in a very linear way. After graduating in media management in my master's program, I applied to a job at Warner Media through a LinkedIn app. So it was a very useful experience to apply through LinkedIn because, as Kieran before said, many jobs are posted there, and it's a good tool to learn how to use. So after a year of my internship at Warner, through word of mouth, I learned of a new position on the other side of the TV distribution rights industry, which is sales. And I wanted to explore a bit more that other side. And I became a sales coordinator at Entertainment One, where I basically sold the TV rights of famous IPs such as Peppa Pig, Transformers, and My Little Pony. I stayed there for a couple years, gaining invaluable experience, but I also realized that acquisitions, so what I used to do at Warner Media initially, was more for me. And therefore, I tried to wiggle my way back into acquisitions. And luckily, the TV industry is a very mobile, very flexible sector. And I worked at Fremantle for a year, this time leaving the kids industry and doing a more adult content with scripted TV series. And yes, and I work at Sky, and it's my first week here, where I will be buying content for the flagship Sky channels. So I would say that the major challenges I faced was at the beginning really understanding how many companies work and exist in this environment. So using a tool like LinkedIn is super useful because you can map all the companies that are there and the kind of roles that exist that maybe you were not exposed to at uni. I didn't know, for example, that acquisitions was something that existed, and I just bumped into it. And also speaking about how to look for a job, something that I started doing when mapping these companies is to save the links to their career pages. Because yes, LinkedIn is very much used, but some companies still prefer to use their own page to set up the job ads. So that's something that I suggest doing. And then, what can I say? Yes, my top tip. Can I go with the top tip, Bex?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Please give us your top tip.
All right. So when looking for a job, don't be in a hurry. Be strategic. I suggest not to apply to as many jobs as you can. Just apply to the ones that really, really interest you and curate your applications accordingly. It's about quality. It's not about quantity. And I say this from experience because all the jobs that, all the applications that led me eventually to an interview were always the ones that really poured energy and love into. So make your cover letter special, make it stand out, be unique. We've heard amazing tips so far, but absolutely do not lie, because you do want the company to want you, but you also want to make sure that you want them, that you fit. So ask smart questions and be yourself all the time.
That's great advice. Thank you so much, Sophia. And we're going to move swiftly along to our final guest. Thank you very much for joining us, Jide. Could you start by telling us a bit about who you are and what your role is?
Most certainly. Thank you very much, Beck. My name is Jide Johnson. Afternoon, everyone. I'm the founder and head animation producer at Anybox Studios. We specialize in animated commercials, marketing, and broadcast content. And I'm going to talk to you guys today about exactly how I got into the animation industry. So before I got started in the industry, I studied 3D animation as a degree at the University of Hertfordshire and learned every part of the animation production process, right? So my tutors were brilliant animators who worked on the likes of films like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Lord of the Rings, Transformers, and more. They were really strong at helping me understand the basic principles of traditional animation, like walk cycles, squash and stretch, bouncy ball exercises, which are really important fundamentals because, you know, these fundamentals remain the same no matter what piece of software you're using, which brings me on to the software that we actually had to learn, which was 3D Studio Max, Maya, Photoshop, and Flash, which is now called Adobe Animate. I also learned to network at university as well, which I think was really important for building my career to where it is now. So I reached out to companies as I took the opportunity to develop my first animated movie alongside my first showreel, which was focused on my best and most unique character animation work. Right, so networking with those two crucial assets, my film and my showreel, got me my first job at a company called The Mill. It's one of the biggest post-production companies in Europe. And I actually got that job before I finished university as a 3D junior animator. So here I first learned what it was like to work as part of a big team and engage in a professional production pipeline on shows such as Primeval for ITV and BBC One's Merlin. So when my contract came to an end, it inspired me to start my own animation studio, Anybox, right? So as I developed quite a big network from university and my first job at the Mill, I quickly got contracts from big organizations who needed animation, marketing content for advertising and communications. And I began building a small team. Now, through more networking and attending events and catching up with contacts in the industry, we ended up working on a lot of content in children's sector and the adult sector, actually. So, brands like Mr. Men, Cartoon Network, Adult Swim, and many more broadcast-focused brands. So we pivoted from the marketing content over to the broadcast. And that made me realize that we were actually, as a team, we were passionate about telling stories about the underrepresented through animation. So more recently, we made a short movie called Uncle, which you can find on Channel 4's 4OD streaming platform. Right, so by keeping in contact with clients, we landed recently a contract to produce 4 episodes of an American TV series called The Tuttle Twins. So that's now what we're working on right now. And we're focused on the rigging, the concept art, the character animation, and the FX animation. And this entire series is made in Toon Boom software, which our team now specializes in. So in focusing on Toon Boom, we realized a lot of animators who are coming into the industry, people who are at university and people who are trying to learn actually like how to get into the game, don't actually know how to use this software. And so therefore we launched an internship scheme called the Anybox Access Scheme, which we took on 17 interns and we gave them free Toon Boom lessons and along with free software so they could actually develop the skills to work on long form, high-end 2D animation TV content. And we developed such a strong relationship with Toon Boom that they've recently announced us as an authorized Toon Boom training center. And for those of you who don't know what that is, that's basically, an animation studio that has the license to now teach the software, but with the full support of Toon Boom. And we're the only authorized Toon Boom training center in the UK. So what we do is we teach I guess like a 12-week course, and people come onto the internship. They learn the basics of Toon Boom, and we also pay for them to take the Toon Boom exam. So there's 2 exams. There's one that allows you to be like, just show that you know the basics. And then there's also like a more advanced exam. So these are testimonials from, the many students that have come onto the internship and sort of graduated and actually managed to get accredited. People like Jack here, as you can see on the screen, managed to get into Blue Zoo animation. He started working there only a few weeks ago after coming off of our course. And we've since had other participants go on to work at places like Sun and Moon and Big Little Fish. So we're really proud of, not only the course, but the kind of community we've managed to foster, because it's really important to just help people understand what skills are required to actually start working at this level. And that's it. Thank you very much. I'll give you my top tips. One thing I tell all of our interns and animators in general is, network across. Don't forget to network across. Don't just network vertically. So what that means is, don't always think that you have to find the most important person who's above you, because it's normally the people that are like working beside you. They're going to be the ones who go and work at Blue Zoo. They're going to be the ones who go and work at, like all these other studios. So, keep in contact with the people who are like literally horizontal to you, and don't overlook them just because they're not some big employer, because they could be the people that get you your next job. Thank you very much. Have a lovely day, guys.
Thanks, Jide. Yeah, that is great advice. In fact, I can't tell you how many times I've been given opportunities by people who technically were less qualified than me at some point. So just be nice to everyone. I think that's brilliant, a brilliant, brilliant tip. So there you have it. Some incredible advice on how to apply, interview, build your brand, where to get training, and some amazing insights from Sophia and Jide about their personal journeys. Hopefully, with all this information, you'll feel more comfortable and confident starting your own journey in kids media. As many of our speakers have mentioned, it is important to stay focused and resilient, and to prepare and research when applying for roles. Now, don't forget to register for CMC. If you're able to make it, you can either come live, which is I thoroughly recommend it. I'll be there. Come and say hi. A lot of the speakers will be there. So you can do that on the CMC website. You can also register to apply to watch all of the sessions online, which is another way of attending as well. So without any more further ado, I'm going to say goodbye. We hope this has been an insightful session for you. And remember all the other resources that CMC offers for you. Right. Thank you so much again for joining us. Thank you to everyone that we had coming to speak. We'll be sending you a fact sheet after the session with links to the videos that we mentioned, speaker top tips, links to industry websites, organizations where you can get more information on training, bursaries, where to apply for a job, everything that you could ask for, and the answers to the questions that you sent in during the session. One more time, thank you, all the experts. Thanks to Darren and all the production team for working their magic on this session. Thanks to CMC for putting the session on. And thanks to you for watching. We wish you every success in your kids' media journey. Hope to see you around sometime. I've been Beck Hill. Have a good time. Bye.